Well, ladies and gentlemen, I just have to say that there is so much that I find remembering the logics professor that pretty much everybody at our little school over at South College, I was going for physical therapy assistant, thought about going for rad tech, but yeah, as you can see, I flunked out and I'm here doing living the dream, but on the news in 15 minutes of going and getting like Hardee's biscuits because I had coupons and splitting them with the mom and everything else and all of that. I found so much that was just kind of silly, stupid things that I've known about, but it's like it's the 15-minute thing. So, and granted, I do believe it was the 10 o'clock hour. So they actually put on real facts and we're just like, well, let's see if anyone can put it together. So here's for the 10 o'clock hour news and the political minute review. Granted, this is from Fox. And about 10 years ago when they had Shep Smith on and he had to have that smile on, and you're going, he's not telling us everything. And they said they had a flash mob over in Grand Central Station and they showed up and there's like 20, 30 people that did some sort of like Broadway line dance thing or something else. And they covered up because they didn't want anybody to know New York City that 30 to 50 people were coming in a flash mob and demanding watches and wallets and everything else, and were the only ones that could get on a train, and went to a place where it was congested, made two or three fender benders that blocked the road, and got out, or else just went into the subways and took everything. And I'm just going, people look at the jewelry stores, at all the weirdness of stealing hundreds of bars of deodorant and other stuff that really don't go bad out there. I mean, you can vacuum seal it and everything else, which you'll be like, oh, where are they stealing the vacuum sealers at? And they look at these big ticket items to like HBA weirdness, and in a way, that's kind of the side action of what really happens out there because people want money or to go fence the jewelry or something else or take away yearly expenses, and then they go and buy a computer with it. In Knoxville, I'm just wanting to say honestly, I mean, I worked at a Walmart. We had a special where they brought in $320 computers. We had to have $500 to have these people arrested and sent to jail, or we just had to prove to a judge they were there and possibly walked out without paying for them. They had to sign a letter for a solid year that they would not come back on premises. I'm just saying, you are losing your police that are not racist. They will be replaced by basically, like we had here, the Span Am War will be like your CSI and intelligence group. World War One will be your like political police that you go there connected and they show up and they seem to just do anything and they will take your daughters, whether they're black, white, or whatever, and they'll have to lose their virginity to them, and they'll only be married to them for 5 years. Say they're undercover, and the most they'll ever get is alimony and child support from a fast food part-time worker. You will have the World War IIs, and the principalities will be basically your scuzzy Joe Streetback or whatever it is from the old Dragnet movie. The scuzzy cops will be that. And the Taliban will be, and all the people, not Islamics, all the people that are really bad people that they're bringing over, figuring out how to sneak them across the border here and there, figuring out how to whatever. And it's like all those people that were like trying to get onto planes and get out, they'll be over here and they'll just be like, but I thought we were USA and we loved each other. Y'all be whipped up into a mob, black, white, yellow, whatever, even in multicolor rainbow, and you will kill them. Because they were basically like something that would unify your community. But they look like them, and it's just Roman reconstructional weaponized racism. And with the $320 computer, the Yakuza group, underneath one of Emperor Hirohito's brothers and his lineage, and he goes on to he has 500 sons in the 80s, went out there and stole most of them, and stole baby formula, and cut their cocaine and everything else so their brains could absorb what they needed to from it. And the others went out there and had the cocaine and drugs and everything else, since we won't legalize it completely, and like heavily jail people who do a bootleg situation. Not trying to blame bootleggers or anything else. I mean, we have moonshiners around here, and I've met at least 2 or 3 of them that's been on the show a long time back. Got nothing for love for you over the business you do, but, they're not putting lead in it. Where I know 80 or 90 bootleggers around here, they don't like you. They'll grind up all the fishing sinkers they can find or anything else and put it in there and just screw you up. Same with people at fast food or anything else that's baking with flour, with mercury. Now, the $232 computers, the $332 computers, they hooked all those up to take over some of the small little police officer areas, ran meth and everything so they could burn out the police and have them get, dum-dum wounds. It's like they didn't kill them, but, they're pretty much beat up from being shot by blunt-rounded 40s and higher. They got rid of them. They got onto police. Their people are the only ones there. And anywhere it's really important, only the Romans get on. And the most Roman important Latin you are, that's what happens. You just can't be anything for the USA and from a Latin country. Kind of like the Godfather's family. Now, they made a supercomputer with this. Since there were so many of them hooked together, basically the redundancy of it, people can't stand typing in that many IPO addresses and other stuff and it's constantly going like, hey, how are you? How are you? How are you? How are you? I mean, people will go over there and they'll find the people around here and put them in computers, and it's like they'll all of a sudden start bumping them from side to side and going, hey, how are you? How are you? How are you? How are you? Hey, what you doing? What you doing? Oh, we're the 2 balls and you're the dick in the middle. It's not important. So it's like they put them into a thing that you don't have to socialize in, and they'll do that. And anytime they come up to anything out there, it's the same thing that's what the computers are doing. They all hook together with FireWire or USB cables. And they're just going to get a bunch of these computers out there because basically California, through its tax system and stuff, puts in about 50 to 75% of the value of the computer is already paid for by taxpayers. So it's just that much better to go out there and steal something. And since it's $900, me getting a $900 laptop, I mean, most laptops at Walmart out there are still $500. And they'll knock the socks off of almost anything out there because of the tax situation. I can just get them, fold them down, and put them in there and rip the screen of it off and just turn it on and just have everything keep running through it and do what would take like a small warehouse or like 5 or 6 storage sheds together that'd be air conditioned. I can do that in like one room. Me alone. Now, I'm an idiot at this. I can just chop shop and put stuff together and be like, this is what it is. The housing ain't going to look right because you need to put more of this stuff in here. And technically you need a new PlayStation out there for it. Know anybody that's got like a kid that broke their PlayStation? There are about 4 things in there that I need to take off and put on each one of your all's laptops. And, I can just solder and paste and do everything else. And, I might mess up once or twice, but it's not going to overfly the hard drive or motherboard. So then it's like, just take it off and take the solder off with the solder remover and, move along to the next thing. And it'll work 10 times better and everything else. You don't understand what they're really doing here. This is them winning the war, and we've already made another budget spending thing, promised the world that we'd be able to handle the World War II situation and everything else. And we're probably going to be going it alone. This isn't the way Russia went out, but we are going to get beat and lose territory, as in armies will come in, armies will go over. It's not seceding like the Philippines did. It's not any of that a Commonwealth can do. It's actually coming out there and full out taking huge chunks of everything to right now, possibly even remaking slavery and having the Native Americans in Oklahoma being used as human sacrificial people. But whatever. Again, I know I've digressed and gone on about this, so let's move to the other little point on it and be like, well, it was 15 minutes of this. The situation with until I'm getting hit in the head by police over here, they put it through the LCD televisions and everything else. I just recently hooked one up in here because one of the transgendered people that they have on the police force, it's actually one of Hitler's descendants. She's an FBI agent. She's supposedly, that's how I know about Bread, when you go out there and you kill badge holders and take their identity and fake your own. And it's like, we took over this part of the city so much, you have to give it to us. And it's like, in a way, it's kind of like gangs in New York. Kill the sheriff and you become the sheriff. And I mean, seriously, I'm going, oh my God, they read the book before they came over as illegal immigrants. But, again, I've digressed and everything. Moving on here, let's see here. Yeah. Anyway, she gave me this one little thing, she got her Y chromosome. It's a notebook, and I bring it around through the house, and it takes out most of all the stuff, which means most of all the stuff is done by World War II people, because that's what she is. And anyone that's like World War I or Span Am gets knocked out. So everything else that's here is like converts and Taliban, if it's running on a program here anymore, because they're newer, so it's a new kid on the block and they're getting rid of fat. Just moving right along here with where we're going to be spending more than defeating Hitler and Mussolini, and we're going to go out there and we're going to try and win World War II. Finally, we're going to win it. It's going to be us and us alone. We've just managed to get rid of our Jewish population that was 15 to 20% of the country. Before Span Am, it was like 70-some%. And we've gotten rid of the majority of our Native American population and said that it's kind of like a group of fraternal situations, because they ran out of people to have sex with and kids with. So we've used them up, even though the original founding of everything out there, if you go with it, was really that it was a bunch of Native American slaves coming back over to stay here and separated from their governments that were Christianity. And that's why there was that old law that said, I think it's still on the books, if you say that this country or nation was founded on Christianity, then technically it's treason, espionage, and illegal colonization, and war by foreign power. But, moving on, I'm going to go longer than the 15 minutes here. Lori Lightfoot said that all the problems with the theft in Chicago was because of long-term ingrained situations that was set up over generations. I don't care how light I am, whatever it is. Please call me idiot white boy here for whatever it is, even though I don't even have statistical error to say that I'm white by my birth date. Ain't wanting any of the privilege, because basically if you're white, they kill you off. I mean, they're only like 3 to 5% of the population. Everybody else is just mistaken over whoever they look at. Being honest with you, if she is saying that it is long-term ingrained systemic problems in society, basically going back to Civil War and other stuff. Okay, she's opening up war on France and the Vatican because they use slavery as a way to try and take over and destroy the Constitution and the First through Fourth Amendment. Under the original founding of the Constitution and everything else. Declaration of Independence, etc., etc. Which is also why the Continental Congress said anyone who publicly joins the cause in any way, shape, or form is removed from slavery. If it is long-term ingrained situations, here's the other thing that comes up whenever I was just watching it. Okay, you're actually agreeing with me that most of my family, since they were like dark black and everything else, and red black, and had green eyes, and they've gone after a couple of people, and I'm going, they're just people I know from Ethiopia, and everybody calls them the Ethiopian blue-eyed people, and I'm going, they've like disappeared, and I've heard there's been a lot of shootings out there, and generally it's like this in that side of town. If you hear like one or two shots, you can hear like hitting a deer, and no one finds the body. If you hear someone like empty their thing, it's like they just go tat 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 tat. That's a cop just trying to empty his thing out and is going to put the Alka-Seltzer in, and he couldn't handle it. Just being as openly honest with it, you are purposely, completely, and it's like this. Thank you, Lori Lightfoot. You agree with me that a bunch of crazy, not USA people came over here because they got DMV photos in the 80s and they could transport them anywhere across the world. And it's like, come look at all of our people. It's such celebrity wonderfulness. So they said, I look like them. The Pope has this thing put in that if I look like them, I can kill off the evidence of me having sex with my slaves, which was illegal. Even if it wasn't true, they just showed up and said, I look close enough like you. We're going to replace your entire little town. And no one's going to care about the white side. No one's going to care about the black side. And if we can find others, sure. Might keep some of the kids around because, we're screwed up mentally. And it's going to keep everybody happy and everything else. And you're agreeing with me totally that they cannot succeed because of slavery. And everything else. And Americans naturally cannot succeed. Because we're constantly in fear of foreign nationals doing what I'm doing right now, and recolonization by Christian, schizophrenic, homicidal powers. And you don't really want to believe that white people were sold off, especially through the East, into like central rainforest Africa. And that basically the Jews came out and said, hell no. And took over all the kingdoms in some way and like stopped it. And then they go, we need to do something about this. So then they enacted slavery. And then they enacted slavery and went through and said, all these people are allies, Hebrews, the Jews, whatever it is, and sold them off into slavery and everything else. And then all the slavers just go, we need new houses, and they know how to build by stick and not from their poop and mud. And they came over here because long-term, ingrained, systemic, whatever it is. I'll get around some of the World War II ones. My grandparents, when they were alive, would be like, why don't you just do something about that? And it's like, well, I guess they want me to practice mental telepathy because the government says we need to figure out what they're doing so they can find Raphael's boy and the Donatello, especially the Donatello. And it's like 3 Donatellos and 1 Raphael's boy and some other random painting. Rembrandt or something. And I will get around them and I'll just like, and I'll be honest, I will feel them zap me in the head. Now and then if I'm around a cell phone tower or something else, and just be like, and it's like, it's just for you to lose thought. And they're like, you don't ever talk to our people like that. And it's like, I've just been trained to be like, Yeah, sure, whatever. Cool. Yeah. Don't impede your progress. I know only y'all can have degrees in this. I'll go find something else. Should have always stayed with a 2 week certificate or less. I mean, it's the truth. I do not do anything or anything else. So it's like long term ingrained situational things out there. And these people just came over because people just really wouldn't fight. They would believe the army, the police, or something else was going to do something. And they just replaced whoever it is. And unlike the Soviet Union or China, where they try to replace somebody at the top end of society, they replace people at the very bottom end, like homeless and middle class and under. Now, I think she openly, honestly agrees with me that there are systemic problems with this, and that most of the Confederacy did go back overseas, and they just didn't have monuments made for them. And then they come over here, and they come over with their black buddies that they were selling people back and forth on, and they kill whoever they can. And it's just, there's more of an Oriental situation on the West Coast. And people look at me and think that I'm the most racist person in the world, but I'm agreeing with you. You know, it's not that there's this slave rage that everyone will be free because they're free and they have the ability to do whatever it is and they're going to stay together and they're back with their people or something else like that. No. It's just a systemic problem of however shit has been done throughout all the different races and generations and everything else under colonialization, and people are just natural victims and think that someone else is going to do something. And, you know, out in the old cowboy movies, they just called that cowardice. And people ignored them and they never had kids or anything else. And it's like this. People who own people as slaves are less cowards. So, with all of it, I'm sure I'm going to be told that this is hate speech. But I'm agreeing with the mayor who has issued this statement, who has been putting it on everything. The other thing, looking at it, is just going, okay, if we say that we really have came to a time past slavery, and she's talking about just discrimination. She's, you know, from the progressive North where they've never really had slavery or something else, or else it was something that was there and it's like, don't worry, I'm bringing over like my cousin who has like 50 kids and they're all 18 or 20. And they all vote in the next election and slavery disappeared or whatever the hell it is. Okay, it's just straight up discrimination and everything else. Well, the systemic problem of it was probably they brought in too many war criminals from World War I, Span Am, World War II, all the others out there, because we really were only in Korea and Vietnam because of fallout from World War II and the destabilization that it did, and that we were primarily the only group that took out Japan. So the systemic problem is that we have relied completely on foreign national military war criminals against our country, and that we have completely set up our own system to fail, as they've gone around there saying that they can protect their craft, killed off hundreds of people because they were scientists, or else they could start figuring out whatever it was, taking over underground sections of our military base and everything else. And it's like, we still pay taxes, and so long as we make our poundage of parts to go out, we just keep making better parts. And you keep giving us all these raw materials and send in and lose like 300 or 400 people that are Secret Service. Most of them don't have kids, and I hate sounding genetically Nazi or something else like this, but you know, there are certain families that always have a football player in them. Little towns understand this. Big towns, big cities, people move in and out. It's just there for a boomtown. All big cities are boomtowns. Whenever we have a person that is going to come in, and some people are always public speakers or anything else. If you go into a little town, They know pretty much what you are, where you're at, and everything else, and they'll just keep you around for that much. Kind of like a big city. But you can't take that many Secret Service agents out of the system trying to regain to get a new form of plastic or something else from underneath one of these military bases, losing 500 of them that don't have kids, and maybe, 6 or 10 others were underneath there that did. You can't take that out, whether it's genetics or raising the children, from society, and still expect your society to have the best amount for it, or something that's going to be moving up or even hold steady at that. You can't have foreign national military killing off and taking over the military until people submit and say that they are their family and have always been their family and have nothing for the USA. Even if they're undercover, eventually this will have long-term problems like it's seen in the movie Donnie Brasco with FBI agents. This is just something that naturally will be looked at and naturally does happen. The whole situation over it is, you would have to be agreeing with me that basically we've lost vast chunks of our population in our country because of, I guess what they want to say is, foreign national special interests. And it's like, well, those are underling people that I'd never be with. I mean, even black people call people the AJ word, Aunt Jemima, because they're so poor that they only eat that syrup and pancakes in the morning and at night. No different than half of the people I know of that were out there that, for some reason I'm like, this is where my cousins lived at. They didn't tell us where we were moving. I just left overnight and let us take over the payments on the house. They leave a forward an address or not? You're an annoying kid. They would never. Must be just that. No, it doesn't matter if you rip open the trash bags and you see people's faces looking up at you. But, that's just the way things go. But, Madam Lori Lightfoot must know every single thing. Maybe it's a combination of all of those. But then again, you would probably have to be agreeing with me in my crazy social science. And as it is, since it wasn't delivered by someone at least looking like Sidney Poitier and saying they were killing black people, and black people from Africa were replacing them. They fought against us. We had 17 African principalities be opened up from World War II. They might have had all dealings with them and everything else shut down, and they even tried to recircle them. We still have 5 that we just provide medical care because Ebola sometimes gets out, and you'd say that one of them made Ebola. But they're really Roman, and they're just very dark and almost the complexion of Sidney Poitier. There's hundreds of them that roam around Knoxville, and kind of like, instead of being locked up abroad, it's kind of like, it just feels so nice being here. Maybe it's a static field that makes everybody feel good here, except for me. But it's life. It's what we all have to live with, put up with, and deal with. Now, in looking at this, I've run way long. I'm very sorry. It was 15 minutes. This is probably one of the reasons why I'm going to be getting rid of this, is because basically whether you're black, white, yellow, red, or brown, or green, or blue, if you're in leadership, you really are removed from 80% of the population, any way that it goes. Even if you say you came from somebody, you limited yourself so much. And it's like people I know from Nashville. I have family members that will not talk to me because they said, I've just been around too many people. It has nothing at all to do with that. And it's like, oh, you've been around too many people and you just have too many opinions. And it's like, it doesn't even matter if I look at some of my family members, whether they were white or what you will call white, all the way down to as dark as Sidney Poitier, Mr. Tibbs. That were outright replaced by people, outright removed from society. Didn't matter if we're holding on to his leg and saying, don't go down there, stay with your aunt out here. And it's like, I always pronunciate auntie. He went down there and they got to bring 2 more over. I mean, seriously. I mean, they replace Oriental twins with one person from Rome or over in that area, and there you go. They don't look like each other. I've got 2 pictures on my phone right now from some guy sending me dead family members photos just to like tell me, haha. And you'll never get a girl, and you just think they all left and went back to their own home countries where really we're strongest at. And I just look at everything and go, look, it's like string theory. I made an invisible string. It means nothing. And I threw it over there. See, we need to see what they do. Imagine if I got in demographics before World War I or anything. I could have an eternal thing set up here, and all I have to do is just say, we just need to see what they'll do. I mean, honestly, in a way, I do look at Lori Lightfoot and some of these as basically the guy in Avatar, drinking his coffee, looking there going, I'm going to get home before lunch. Light it up. And they don't really care just so long as someone's there and they'll keep paying their salary. That's why it's like, never say, I pay your salary. They can just replace you with somebody else who'll get a 40-hour-a-week Burger King job and still keep paying taxes and will probably buy liquor and cigarettes. Even if they just throw them out in a thing, or I'll send $50 to the city budget for however it is over their discretionary spending. I mean, there's no difference between de Blasio, Bush, Trump, Biden, in my opinion. And Biden, to me, I'm going, he's the worst. And it's just going to keep getting worse. What else is there to try and get stuff done? I mean, it's rather ridiculous. Anyway, this has gone way too long, and I apologize. Colin Dawson, probably my last one on here. Like and subscribe.